Hey everybody, this is 7th grade science for Thursday, October 1st. Believe it or not, we're already into October. I'm Mr. Sheridan, and here's our instructional video for the day. So we're going to get started, and we've got a lot to cover today, so I hope that you're all paying attention. And for those of you who are in class, feel free to go back and you can watch this over again if you need some more instruction. So the place I'm going to start is that if you have not filled out the form to come into school, or even if you aren't coming into school next week, you need to fill out this form. These are the people that I have on the list of people who have filled it out: Preston, Madison, Cody, Aiden, Hope, Maggie, Ellie, Madison, Gage, Grace, Bree, Raymond. If you are not on that list, that means that you have not filled out that form. So you need to go back and you need to make sure that you get that form filled out so that we, first of all, we know that if you're coming or not, which is, and it's totally fine either way. We'd love to have you come into school, but if you can't, we get it. So if you, whether you're coming in or not, and then it gives some contact information for us if you are going to come in. So make sure that you get that done. The second thing that you need to make sure that you get done, and I'm going to stop sharing so that you're not distracted by that background. What I really need you to do is go into our Google Classroom and make sure that you see. So every single day, you're going to go in and you're going to do your daily attendance and your daily check-in. And then you need to come down here. This is a busy week for us in week 7. So you need to come here and fill out this form for the in-person day this coming Monday. Then you need to come down here and make sure that you get these forms done. These are summative assessments. These are going to count towards your grade. This is super duper important that you review your vocabulary and you understand what we've been talking about. If you don't, if you have questions, please let me know. But these are due today. These need to be done today. And this is summative grade. This is a big deal. For those of you who are playing sports, you will not be playing sports if you do not turn this stuff in. So you need to get these in. So there's 2 of them. So there's 2 tests that you need to take. They're both just a few questions each, and you need to get that done. Now today, this is a new assignment. This is going to be due on Tuesday. This is also going to count toward your final grade. This is a summative assessment. You can see that these 3 assignments right here have summative assessment written on them. So these are all going to count toward your final grade. They're all associated with learning targets that we've been discussing over the last few weeks as we've been talking about ecosystems. And you can read on our instructions here that it says attached is the slide deck with the instructions for your ecosystems model. Attach your work to this assignment and turn it in before the deadline on Tuesday, October 6th. So you can see that that's a few class days away. What we are going to do today is go through this presentation. So this is all telling you what I'm looking for in this one assignment. So we took those tests. You had to answer those questions. Now the second part of your summative is to create a model of an ecosystem. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through this really quick. So first of all, what is a model? You guys have been making models in science class for a really long time. So I want you to understand that this is very similar to all the other models that you've been making in school. But there's lots of different ways to make models. You can either draw one on a bigger piece of paper or even smaller if you need to. You can create keys in there so that you can write on it. You can make descriptions and draw arrows or write numbers next to them that correlate with a key in another place. But you could also take, in this case, if you're going to create an ecosystem, if you've got a bunch of Legos or things in your house that you can use to represent things in your ecosystem, you could create it that way and then just take a picture of it and do it that way. Or you go outside and put together a bunch of stuff that represents an ecosystem. However you want to do it, get as creative as possible, but we want you to make a model of an ecosystem. Now we do have a couple things that you need to tell us. You also need to describe this ecosystem. So you're not just going to make it and then take a picture and walk away. You need to tell us what is in the ecosystem. So you need to know what type of biome is it in. Is it a desert? Is it the mountains? Is it the rainforest? All these different biomes that we've talked about, and what are the abiotic factors of your ecosystem. You remember that abiotic factors are things that are not alive and have never been alive. So things like weather, things like rocks in the terrain, the climate, the elevation, all those things are abiotic factors. Describe one of the food chains within your ecosystem. So you're going to talk about the producers and the consumers in your ecosystem, what's actually making its own food, and then what eats that and what eats that and what eats that. So you need to go through and talk about all of those things, describe at least one food chain within the ecosystem that you're creating a model for. How does the energy flow through your ecosystem? We've talked about this before, that there is a way that energy flows through the system. So if it's coming from the sun, if we get energy in the form of radiation from the sun, and then plants are able to take that through photosynthesis and actually create glucose through the process of sunlight, adding sunlight, water, and of sunlight and water and CO2, and taking that, mixing it together and creating glucose, which is the energy that plants need to grow. And then consumers can consume the plants, and carnivores eat those animals. So and that's how energy moves through the system. And we've talked about what it is and how much energy actually moves through that system. So so a plant is going to create that glucose and create that energy from the sun through photosynthesis. And then when another animal eats it, there's a 90% and 10% relationship there. And we've talked about that in one of the CK12 assignments, that there's that food pyramid, that at the bottom, you've got a lot of energy that comes from the sun that producers are creating. And then a little bit of that gets passed on to the animals that eat that, and a little bit of that gets passed on to the animal that eats that, and so on up the pyramid. So only 10% of that energy is moving on as we go through the energy flow. We also need you to describe one relationship within your ecosystem. We just talked about this late last week, and we talked about mutualism, parasitism, and commensalism. And you should know what those mean. Those are on your vocabulary sheets. Mutualism is where both animals or biotic factors benefit from that relationship. Parasitism is one is hurt, one is benefited, and commensalism is when they both benefit. So you need to describe that relationship, what the animals are that are in that relationship, and what type of relationship it is. So this is super duper important. While you're creating this model, you need to create a description. Somehow you need to get these words included in your model. So whether you create a key that you are describing, or if you are writing in a Google Doc and you're describing your ecosystem and then you're going to draw it someplace else, that's totally fine. That works. But these 11 vocabulary words need to show up, and you need to identify them clearly. So you need to actually use these words correctly. So you either need to underline them, bold them, capital letters, I don't care, but you need to make sure that I can see that you're using these 11 vocabulary words in your model. So once you get all that done, you've done your description, you've done your either a drawing or you created your model and you took a picture of that, or we're going to talk about another way that you can do it is on something called Storyboard. That is another way to do it, and I'll show you that in just a second. But all of these things need to go back, and you can turn them in right here. You need to attach them to this assignment before you're done. So I would recommend, we're going to spend a few days in class working on this. I would recommend that you take that time and make sure that you really get it just the way you want it before you turn it in, because once you turn it in, that's going to be a summative grade for you, and it's going to show up. The other one that we talked about on there, this is a website called storyboardthat.com. And you all can go here. So they try really, really hard to get you to buy their premium plan, but you are allowed for free to make 2 storyboards per week. And really you only need to make 1. So here's how this works. And let me see if I can actually create a new one. Because what I want you all to do, and there's some options down here that I can't see right now. So what we need to do is, okay. Now, so what I did is you can go into storyboardthat.com, and it prompts you to actually start a storyboard. And when you do that, it's going to give you all these different kinds of options up here that you can put new and interesting things into the science one actually isn't great because we're dealing with, animals. So characters and then animals, this is how you would do this. So you can drag all kinds of stuff down in here. So if you can find these animals, so maybe this buck back here has a fawn. Now what I did with this, I tried to do this on my iPad last night and did not have very much success because you can't change the size of these animals very easily on your iPad. So if you are using a desktop, this could be a really good option that you can create these. You can put animals in here and then you can create these text boxes so that you can, you still need to use your vocabulary. So in this case, you can type in here and then you can, let's see, I'm a consumer or I'm a carnivore. So, and then you can highlight this because again, just like we talked about before, you need to make sure you're identifying those vocabulary words. Those 11 vocabulary words need to be used in your thing. So you can do this a couple of different times and you can tell the story of your landscape or your ecosystem however you would like when you're doing this. So there's a lot of this is a cool toy. If you want to spend some time and figure out how that works, you're welcome to. If that's not something that you are interested in, then there's a lot of different ways to do this. So you can just draw your ecosystem. You can take pictures of it. If you want to do a video of yourself just talking about your ecosystem, that would be totally fine. There's a million different ways to do this. If you want to make a slides presentation or just write it all out in a Google Doc, any of those things are okay, but you need to follow all these rules that we just talked about. You need to describe all of these things, describe your ecosystem, what biome is it, what are the abiotic factors, describe a food chain, describe the energy flow, a symbiotic relationship, and then you need to include all of these vocabulary words. So then you need to get it turned in. So listen, you all can do this. You're all going to be great. I'm going to answer any questions in class, but as always, please send me an email if you have any issues at all, and I'm happy to answer them for you. So with that, feel free to go back and watch this instructional video again, and you can fast forward and find different things if you need to. But as always, send me an email or come into class, and we're going to talk about this over the next few days in class. Hope you all have a great day. We'll see you soon.